Android devs, welcome to the AI on Android Spotlight Week. In today's interview session, we will discuss how to build AI-empowered features on Android. And let's start with some introductions. I'm Kateryna, a developer relations engineer at Google working on Android AI. Today, I have a team of AI experts with me who will answer the top of your questions.
Hi, I'm Ollie Gaymond. I lead Android's AI and machine learning product teams. Our work spans features like AI wallpaper, circle to search, as well as key developer tools like AI Core with Gemini Nano. And we work with teams all across Google to help bring their AI experiences to life and also make it available to developers as well to build their incredible experiences.
I'm Miguel Ramos. I'm a product manager at Firebase, and currently I'm working on improving the developer experience for mobile and web development in Firebase. I'm also leading a new product, Vertex AI in Firebase, which allows developers to call directly the Gemini API from the client. I'm super excited about that.
I'm Khanh. I'm a product manager working on Google AI Edge. And it is a suite of software libraries that allows you to deploy on-device AI on different platforms, including Android, iOS, and web. So we have several components in Google AI Edge, which includes MediaPipe, LiteRT, which was formerly known as TensorFlow Lite, and several more tools.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So let's start from some news and what was recently actually released on Android. What are the AI capabilities? I know that we have really amazing and powerful Gemini app that can do basically everything for you. But what else you can share? Could you give me some examples?
Yeah, so it's been an incredible year for us. As you said, lots of new experiences coming. I've been excited by a few things. So the first was the launch of Circle to Search, which is really exciting because it's the first time you can actually just point to things rather than having to try and describe them. So this ability for AI to help you to explore things with new input modalities, I think is going to be really transformational. So super excited about that. The other one that I also am really excited about is bringing Gemini into the OS. So we launched this new feature that helps you to bring in Gemini wherever you are in the OS, on top of any other experience. And it's really helpful to get things done and to perform actions with Gemini in concert with other apps. Super excited about that. And of course, developer runtimes, super important. As mentioned, TF Lite rebranding to LiteRT, adding support for PyTorch, fantastic. And then most recently, AI Core with Gemini Nano. There's so much going on. It's been an incredible year.
Okay, let's deep dive into AI on device. What are the capabilities available right now for developers? And maybe we can talk a little bit about Gemini Nano?
Yeah, running AI at the edge or on device unlocks a range of incredible capabilities. In fact, we use huge numbers of AI models all across the OS. The camera stack particularly is one. You might have seen the recent Pixel launch. They had a new feature called Add Me, using a range of computational photography capabilities to synthesize images so you can be in the picture even when you didn't take the picture. So it's really, really exciting how these things are enabling new capabilities. And the reason they can do this is because by running on device, by processing the data locally, you don't need any round trips to the server, right? So you can make lower latency calls. You can be something that always works, even when you don't have connectivity, perhaps when you're on that amazing hike out at Tahoe. So it's really fantastic to do this stuff locally. We're also seeing this is absolutely true of generative AI as well. So I'm glad you mentioned Gemini Nano. I'm super excited this week, opening up Gemini Nano access with the experimental preview. I really can't wait to see what people are going to build with it because we know this is where it happens, right? Once developers get control of this stuff, they absolutely exceed our expectations every single time. So I can't wait to see more of that. And Gemini Nano is so useful for building these features where you want to process that data locally. And this can be really important where you might have some sensitive context. You might be working on data that needs to remain private. And processing that all on device is great because you can make a guarantee to your users that it's never going to leave the device. So we think this is a really important piece of technology and super excited to see what people do with it.
Thank you so much, Ole, for sharing. I'd like to know what else is available for on-device execution. So we mentioned TensorFlow Lite, right? So what is available, like what developers can build with TensorFlow Lite, or what other tools or APIs they can use to maybe experiment with their own models or try other stuff?
Yeah, so TensorFlow Lite allows you to bring your own ML models and deploy it on device. And in this case, I think on Android. And you can start by implementing your model in the machine learning framework of your choice. It can be PyTorch, it can be TensorFlow, it can be Zax. You use the TensorFlow Lite converter to convert the original machine learning models to the TensorFlow Lite format, or Lite RT format. As a new
we rebranded it recently.
Yes, we rebranded it a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so it's called Lite RT now.
Exactly. And there are different techniques to optimize your model performance, including quantizations. When you deploy on device, you also have different configurations, different accelerators that you can use to run your model on. It can be CPU, which give you the broadest coverage. All Android devices has a CPU that you can use for on-device machine learning. And you can also use GPU, which is available on most devices, or you can use the NPU, which will give you very good performance when running on-device machine learning, but it has a little bit smaller footprint where you can leverage that, mostly on flagship device now. Yeah, and so TensorFlow Lite allows you to bring your own model and going through the conversion process from your PyTorch or TensorFlow or Zax model. There's another library that we provide called MediaPipe Task that we already provide you with a list of around 14 different pre-built use cases that are popular, such as object detections or face landmark detections. And if your use case fit into those predefined use cases, you can grab a pre-trained model that we provide and get started and deploy it on Android with just a few lines of code. Or you can fine-tune the pre-trained models using a low-code model fine-tuning library called MediaPipe Model Maker and adapt that to your use case using your own training data.
Thank you so much. It's really great. So we have some out-of-the-box solutions available on production right now, right? So these MediaPipe tasks that can help with basic things like object detection, segmentation, right?
Right.
So they are available and people can develop apps by using this MediaPipe tasks.
Exactly.
Great. Thank you so much. I'd like also to ask about some examples, like what are the apps, maybe made by Google, that are using on-device capabilities, and what do they use actually? And could you share some examples, maybe? I don't know, Ole, maybe?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we use a lot of on-device computation. When you look at partners across the Android ecosystem, when you look at a feature like camera, there are hundreds of models sometimes that are all understanding the context, the situation, to really give the user the best possible quality of photo every single time. So there's a lot of models in use today. A couple of things that I've been really excited about that launched this year. Recorder team, they have an incredible voice notes app on the Pixel device. And it's been really beloved by journalists. So these are people that are regularly interviewing people, need to capture the notes, understand the conversation. And they may often be having conversations that are a little bit more sensitive in nature. And so for them to have guarantees and security for that information is really critical. So the Recorder team have this incredible on-device speech transcription that runs, and it helps make sense of everything that's been spoken about. Now they've added the ability to understand and synthesize that information using Gemini Nano. So now you can get summaries, so you can quickly understand what the topic of conversation was. You can jump into it, find out exactly what was going on. It's a really powerful addition, and all runs directly on device. So again, maintaining that privacy of conversation. The other thing I was super excited about to see was some of the new work that's happened from the Google Gboard team on smart replies. We've had smart reply capabilities for a while. When you get a message coming in, it would predict what kinds of responses you might want to say. So yes, thanks, sounds good. Very helpful if you want to quickly respond to something on the go, but not really very intelligent in terms of understanding the conversation and providing nuanced responses. thanks to these new large language models like Gemini Nano, we can actually understand the conversation. So when someone says, hey, do you want to meet later at 7 p.m., we can suggest responses like 7 p.m. sounds great. Actually, could you do after 7 p.m., perhaps 8 o'clock? And you get this much more nuanced and intelligent understanding that really helps you to move the conversation on. So really excited about those features in particular.
Yeah, thank you so much. This sounds really good. And I think you can check out more in case studies that we've also published. There are several blog posts covering different applications, how they exactly using on-device AI and what features we implemented. Let's also think about for what features on-device AI is great, where it's super useful and also has such benefits such as privacy, no internet required, right? No cost as well. But when these features, when these on-device solutions maybe don't work well and require cloud support as well, let's maybe summarize what your recommendations to Android developers are.
Sure. Well, Khanh, I don't know if you want to lead there. You're an expert in on-device computation.
Yeah, so I can take a stab at that. For on-device machine learning, the classical ODML use case, which is a non-generative AI use cases, has been there for a long time, right? And the model, over many years of evolution, it has become small enough that it have a very high quality models. For example, the background segmentation models that's running on Google Meet today. You can see that it can tell like the person from the background in a very accurate manner, even with low light, right? And you can do a lot of things on device. So in those cases, your use case can live mostly with the model running on device. However, for the generative AI use cases that we see today, for example, text-to-image generations or large language models, it's clear that the model running on the device still lack the same quality, the same power as a model running on the server side. And on device, you also have a lot of constraints. For example, battery life is very critical to the users, right? And then memory, you only have like at max like 12 gigabytes running on mobile phones, even the flagship device today. And many of the mid-tier device have way less memory. So you cannot fit several, like tens of billions of parameters large language model on the device. So having something small on the device, maybe supporting use cases that doesn't require complex language understanding, and then fall back to the server side for the more complex use cases is usually the way to go that we see many Google apps are using today.
Yeah, so basically device capabilities should be like considered when you're making a decision, as well as how to scale across the ecosystem. Plus, what is your feature? Does it require like extra knowledge that maybe like a on-device model is not capable of, right? Yeah. So Miguel, maybe you can tell us a little bit more what are our cloud capabilities, what developers can use right now, how they can access our powerful Gemini models.
For the Gemini models, developer can always use the Gemini API in the cloud, not only for creating chat experiences, because everybody knows about that, but also thinking about delegating to your model logic from your app. Let me put you an example. Imagine that we are creating an application for learning English. The model can, for instance, analyze the spoken response. They can find out what are the common mistakes and come out with exercise to improve your areas of difficulties. So this is something about delegating to the models on logic that running code is super complicated. It takes a lot of time and sometimes it's not even doable. So how we can do that? So developer can use the Gemini 1.5 Pro or Gemini 1.5 Flash. I like first of all start with 1.5 Flash because it's the perfect balance between cost and performance, and developer will be amazed about how cheaper it is to use these models. So you have the models, now let's use your product So for using this model, you can use Vertex AI in Firebase. For Vertex AI in Firebase, we have several SDKs. One of them is for Android developers. And the good news is we are releasing GA this October. After our preview in May, we have thousands of developers with millions of calls using the product, so we feel super comfortable with the release of the GA.
That's great to hear. So it's available for production use cases, right? And developers can ship the features right now.
Exactly. So developer can use all these front-end experiences in your app, but also use advanced features like system instruction, function calling, JSON outputs, or even more.
Yeah, thank you so much. Check out all documentation for Firebase and how to access Gemini models on Firebase. So let's also touch on privacy, because a lot of developers are worrying about this. How do we make sure that we protect users' data, and what are the aspects of on-device execution? What are the details of cloud executions as well, and how do we make sure that users' data are not used for training, let's say? Could you talk a little bit more about our solutions and specifically from the privacy standpoint?
Sure, so I can certainly talk about what we do on the Android side. Privacy is an incredibly important part of what we do. We want to make sure that we can build incredible experiences that help people day to day, but also do it in a way that they can trust and know that their data is being handled responsibly at all times, right? It's absolutely critical. A couple of years ago, we developed a new system module called Private Compute Core. This is a special part of the Android operating system that is used for our most sensitive ML-based computations. So things that need system context, like audio or the screen, in order to be able to provide that functionality for you. And we didn't want users to just have to trust us. So what we did was we designed it such that it has a technical implementation that's verified by third-party researchers. It's publicly available anytime for people to look into. And it proves that data is going in and out of this special part of the system in a verifiable way. So it's really important. We wanted to make sure that it wasn't just a case of, we are doing the best, but actually we're doing something that is computationally provable to be protected. So that's one of the first parts. The second part is making sure that when we're building these features, we do them in a really responsible way. So we have a lot of teams at Google who spend a lot of time thinking through what the implications are of the features that we're building, what would happen if they were misused, what would happen if they got into the wrong hands, in order to make sure that the things that we're building will have a positive impact on the world. So we take this very, very seriously throughout the entire product development cycle. And then I think Miguel probably best to talk about this, but of course, privacy is really closely intertwined with security as well, and how we manage data. And our cloud data systems are designed from the ground up to protect user data. So Miguel, I think you want to talk about that.
More about
Absolutely, yes. Making sure that everyone understands that when you are using Vertex AI or using Firebase, developers don't have to worry about privacy because the data belongs always to the developer. So they can control and manage this data at all the times. And we are making sure that this data is not used for any training models.
Yeah, this is great to hear. And definitely we keep privacy as top priority, and it's very important to protect users' data. Okay, so let's maybe summarize a little bit. Let's say for Android engineer who just started with AI and have some feature idea empowered by AI, right? How they should approach it? Should they start from on-device? Should they look at the cloud solutions? And how to maybe experiment, how to scale it across devices? Where would you recommend to start, and how to approach it going forward?
I think we talked a little about that, but I with Oli when he said that developers should think about the developer experience, and the best developer experience is the best user experience is always on the device, and take advantage of that. So as a developer, I should always just think about how we're going to take advantage of all these good things that Android have, and also take advantage of the solution already exist today, like the machine learning classic models. I think it's important just to remember that this machine learning model already is a good solution for a lot of common problems. When thinking in the cloud, there is two scenarios where you have to think about implementing that. One is you want to target all the devices of users that have less powerful devices in the market.
You cannot ship features, so like on-device features. I mean, you cannot use on-device models on all devices.
Exactly. And the second is about that there is functionality that is only available on the cloud. That requires a lot of GPU, TPU, and this is only possible out there. But thinking that in the future, I'm pretty sure that devices are becoming more powerful. The models are smaller, are more efficient.
We already see that tendency, right? Models are like optimized and decreased in size, and it's great actually to hear that.
Exactly. But being honest, in the near future, as a developer, I will think about the hybrid scenarios. Like Khanh said before, thinking in supporting something on device and also on cloud, and combine both, because this is going to give you the best user experience.
Yeah, thank you for your recommendation. So I'd like to use this recommendation and maybe practice a little bit. Let's say we have some application and we're gonna have like brainstorming session right now. Let's say it's a boba tea app. And in this app, I can maybe order drinks. I can find best places to go for boba tea. Maybe those places also have like some recommendations or reviews. Yeah, maybe I can look at recipes or play some games. And I'm as an Android engineer, I'm trying to understand what can I do with AI here? How can I empower my app to be more intelligent? Maybe let's think about what out of the box features we have and what could be done on device, what could be done on the server side. I'm thinking one of the easy features that Gemini Nano can maybe help with is to maybe polish in when I write a review for a certain place, it can polish it, right? So it's basically something that could be easily done, I guess, on device, and or maybe some kind of summarization of people's review, because when you have lots of reviews, I guess it's good to use, right?
Absolutely. So these language models are incredibly effective at helping you transform text, whether that's taking in a lot of reviews and messages and making sense of them quickly, calling out key details. Maybe you want to understand what other people like you really like about the place. But also, as you said, for helping you when you're creating content, right? That's the generative and generative AI.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing some really interesting experimentation that people are doing where maybe they have an input field, like a review, where they have a certain style they're trying to guide people towards, and they actually use generative AI to help the user in creating it. So they can actually prompt and re-prompt based on what the user's typing to ask follow-up questions, to help them to provide more nuance. And I really think it's overcoming the tyranny of that blank box, right? It just says, feed me, and it's not clear what to write in there sometimes. I think it's a really exciting use to actually help have a bit more of an interactive experience, helping you to follow that in.
Yeah, and you don't want to be embarrassed. You sometimes want to have a polished answer, right? And because it's going to be available publicly and people will see maybe my name, right?
Yeah, totally.
Cool. What other features? What do you think, guys? What can we do?
I think one of the key feature of generative AI is that it can build a smart agent that can do a lot of things for the users. So when speaking about boba tea, I think one of my challenge when ordering boba tea is there are so many different options to choose from.
Oh yeah,
right?
that's true.
You have different tea flavor, you have different kind of boba, you have different kind of toppings.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like, well, I want a specific kind of flavor, but I don't know how to explain that. So I can just tell Gemini Nano, right? And then about, for example, I like a lychee taste. Tea, and then it was go look on the menu of different boba shops and try to pick the boba tea that from the users' reviews they mentioned something about lychee flavors, for example, and then it can help me to make an order rather than having to go to that particular screen and choose different items I can have conversations with a boba tea order applications assistant, right? And
basically
then
like with a human,
exactly,
right? Like,
exactly.
could you recommend me something that has this and this?
Exactly. And I may not need to pull out my smartphone, but like talk with it in a completely voice interface. And I think that's the very promising futures for applications, because now you can have a very natural interactions with the applications without having to think about like UI design and all of that, but just like natural human conversation.
It can also maybe use some data, like maybe what's the weather like today?
Mm-hmm.
It's like maybe you need more caffeinated drink, you know,
Exactly.
or more sugar, you know,
Exactly.
to be like more energetic or something
Exactly.
like that. Yeah. So basically, being smarter about what users like. What their current state, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe what can influence them, and making some recommendations. Yeah. Okay. What else? What else can we do? No idea. Okay.
That's first of all, this kind of question remember me PM Young interview where people have to answer, what do you think we will do with that technology?
Oh, okay. Good interview question.
Exactly. Hey, I have an idea. Thinking in a real scenario. So sometime I'm heading home after work and I receive a call from my wife and tell me, hey, Miguel, please, can you bring me some drinks, some boba? Because I know that she loves fresh boba. The thing I do is I go into my app, taking a look at the preparation time. I'm going to my mobile, my traffic app, take a look to the traffic, how long it's going to take. I go into my app again, put the order in the cart, driving home, and just checking about the preparation time and when I'm going to arrive to the place. And when I really close, I know it's perfect time, click the button, I go there, grab the drink, go home, and give to my wife, which is cool. I can do it manually. Actually, I know how to do it because I do so many times. But I'm thinking, oh, I could use AI just to fix that. For instance, right now it's possible just using a model and ingesting in the model all this functionality of your app. For instance, place an order. What is the traffic? What is your position? And what is your favorite drink? And make the model do the order for you. And this is possible today. We have function calling, which is basically defining all these functionality in the model. System instruction that basically will tell to the model how to behave. We also have JSON objects, JSON output that basically can tell to the model, return this result in a way that can parse into my object and put inside of my logic. So basically you can do all this stuff, create your app, not worry about any time that your wife is asking for that, go home, doing less effort and making your significant other happier.
Yeah, definitely. So you don't need to think about these little details, right?
Yeah, just listen your podcast while you are driving because you know that the drink is going to be there, pick up.
Just relax in the car. AI will do everything for you, right? Because we know your preferences, we know the traffic, we know weather conditions, and and we know what you like actually, right? So maybe based like on your previous orders, they can also like pick a drink for you as well if you don't know what to order.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that sounds fascinating. By the way, if you have any Android developers who making these boba tea apps, these are good advices for you. Listen carefully. Okay, what else can we do? Let's say, can we do some games in the app empowered by AI? Like, let's say if I wanna do maybe not like a full game, but maybe somehow interact with the app, learn maybe about boba or play with boba somehow. I don't know. Just to, because you don't need to worry about traffic anymore, right? So maybe you want to play a game.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to drive while you have to drink.
Oh, actually, yeah, you need to drive. But let's say if you just want to walk,
I really like to know exactly what are putting into my body. I need to, actually, I do very frequently go onto the calories, investigate about the ingredients, investigate about how good is this drink or food for my body, and read about that. But I had to confess that reading and informing yourself is very tedious. I have a very short memory, so I always forgot about all this stuff. So it would be really nice if we have a quiz that before, yes, order the drink, generate several questions, and generate 4 answers. One of them is correct, and to order the drink, I need to pass the quiz.
That would be fun.
It's fun, and also it's making you aware that the thing that you're going to put into your body. I'm pretty sure that my future self will, thanks to my...
Yeah, definitely. Basically, you would be more educated about what you're eating or drinking, right? Yeah, this is a great feature. I think, also for all developers who are working on nutrition app, I think it's a good idea. Yeah, basically leverage AI to provide more information about different products, right? And based on the, I guess, a recipe or some ingredients, they can recommend if it's good for your body, or like maybe how much sugar it has, etc. Right? So yeah, very good feature. Thank you. I think, do you have any other ideas, like, do you want to share, or like basically a lot of things, right, that we can do with AI? And
so one of the things that machine learning is really good at is making predictions, right?
Oh, that's cool.
Take a lot of data in and then try and predict either classes or individual outputs. And one of the use cases I've seen, which I think is quite interesting, using slightly more traditional sort of ML rather than large language models, is to try and predict what would be the right offer to show someone at that time. So you can imagine coming into your boba tea app, and then based on the data that we have from other users and their experiences, you can log that, and then you can then have a range of different offers you might want to suggest to the person based on locality, based on seasonalities, you mentioned the weather, but also based on any preferences they might have stored in the app. And so at any given time, you could use that to try and predict what is the most likely offer that they're going to take up in order to try and get them to go to a specific boba tea business that's currently doing an offer near you. I think that's quite an interesting use case, very practical, and really helps businesses when they're trying to get people to come into stores and to purchase great boba.
Yeah, I agree with you. A lot of apps already using like prediction mechanisms and algorithms, right? And this is one of the way, I guess, yeah. Okay, so let's maybe summarize a little bit. We brainstormed lots of ideas. We have lots of cool APIs coming. What do you think about our future, how it might look like, and what would you recommend to developers to think about their apps, how they should think about like developing the apps now with all of these AI capabilities? Maybe like thinking about ultra personalization, right? Being more smarter. What do you think, like, how our future gonna look like, and how developers think about it?
I think generative AI definitely is a very promising technology, and we have seen it being useful in many different use cases and improve productivity very significantly. So right now, generative AI is still require models that's pretty large, and the most powerful models require it to run on the cloud. But looking at the trend of how machine learning evolved in the past few years, I'm very confident that we'll see very powerful models that fit into the smartphones within the next like 18 months or so, right? So when we start to have like image classifications model around like 2012 and then like 2016, where it becomes a good enough to power like production apps. The model was about like several hundreds megabytes. But today we have all these segmentations models as very accurate, and it's less than 10 megabytes. And I think for the generative AI models or large language models, the several billions parameters model that is like mainstream right now will become like 10x or like 100x smaller in just like a few years. And with the evolutions of smartphones, we see more NPUs being shipped on smartphone today. And the combination of two factors, I think there will be a lot of new use cases powered by generative AI that will run entirely locally on the device in the upcoming years. So I think Android developers can start with exploring, prototyping those use cases in the apps using the cloud API right now. And if cost is a factor that prevents them to deploy at scale to all of their users, that might not be the case in, say, several months or maybe like 1 or 2 years. And starting early is really important because you have an opportunity to collect more user feedback and understanding what are the pain points of your users, quickly finding the product market fit. And once the cost factor is no longer a concern anymore because technology evolves, it will be able to deploy in production much quicker than like waiting until it to happen.
Yeah, that's a good recommendation. And I think this is definitely how developers should start approaching features. They definitely need time for experimentation, understanding what users actually like, right? And trying different solutions also work, and then think about scaling, and then eventually expect more capable phones, right, coming. Yeah, anything you want to add, guys?
I mean, I'd just second what Khanh said. I mean, when I was actually looking recently at some of the progress we've seen, and the models that we've had are getting 10x smaller for the same capacity year on year, right? It makes Moore's law jealous. It's an incredible rate of progress that we're seeing in capabilities. And so I do think, yeah, planning a little bit ahead, so looking at what's possible today at the frontier in the cloud, and then assuming that a lot of that capability is going to be available on device in the future is really important. And so, yeah, looking for friction points in your existing user experience, whether it's a point where the user is trying to interact and give you information, and that's hard for them to do today, or whether it's a point where you're trying to convey something back to the user, and that's difficult or rigid today. Generative AI can certainly help with both of those things. And so I think you should definitely be looking at all your user flows and sort of mapping them out and saying, well, if we had this capability, what would that do to our business? Because it's definitely going to happen much sooner than everyone's expecting. Over the next couple of years, this is going to be deployed extremely widely. And of course, the cloud capabilities are just going to get even better as well.
Exactly. And the cost itself, right? The cloud cost also goes down. Definitely something that.
But selfishly, it's hard to predict the cloud because obviously they're inventing the future.
That's true.
Whereas it's easier for me to look at what they're doing and say, okay, I can take that and I can make that available.
How can I do this on a smaller device, right?
Yeah.
I would like to motivate developer to encourage developer just to start using that. It's super simple just to infuse AI in their apps. It's about instantiate the model, prompting, and get the response. Basically, it's 3 actions. In the past, it was more complicated. They need to understand deployment, machine learning, and some a lot of
You need to be an AI expert, right?
Exactly. And now we have this democratization of the AI, which make every single developer can use it immediately.
Basically out-of-the-box solutions that you can literally integrate into your app even now and leverage all of these AI capabilities. Okay, thank you guys. It was really interesting. Thank you for answering all these questions. By the way, thank you also Android developers for submitting them. We collected them via social medias, and thank you for answering them. Your advices are very valuable to our developers community. And thank you for joining us today. Android AI Week is an opportunity to explore the latest in AI and its potential for adding powerful generative AI features to your apps. Check out other resources shared during this week in the description below, and begin experimenting with AI in your own projects. Remember to use the hashtag AndroidAI to share your AI-powered features and join the Android AI community.